Okay, so welcome back. Today we're going to show you how to build a database, like a SQL database, from scratch. Now you may be learning databases in SQL and you just want to start out with something, or you may have some existing data that you want to convert into a database. We're going to show you how to do that from scratch. And as an example, we're going to show you how to do that starting out with what you see here, which is a spreadsheet. Here is an Excel spreadsheet. And you might have Excel spreadsheet or Libre Office Calc, which is a free spreadsheet application that's very much like Excel. I encourage you to take a look at that. But whatever spreadsheet you have, we're going to show you it's a very simple process to convert from a spreadsheet into a database. And the reason why we're starting with a spreadsheet, there's a few reasons why it's a good idea to think about using spreadsheets to generate a database. One is that everybody knows about spreadsheets, right? It's very likely that if you're in the science, business, engineering world, you know about spreadsheets, you used them before, and the people you work with have used them. So it's very likely you can very easily start adding data, as you see here, into a spreadsheet, or you can take an existing spreadsheet and grab that data and convert it into a database. So it's really good to have knowledge of how to convert spreadsheets into databases. The other reason why is that spreadsheets are very similar in format and structure to databases. Really, a spreadsheet is a type of database. And the terminology is a little bit different, but if you look at this spreadsheet, it's basically the same kind of thing you would see in a database. Here I've got a spreadsheet file like an XLS file in Microsoft Excel, and you can see it's got rows and columns, and that's very similar to what's called a table in your database. And in this spreadsheet, this XLS file, if you look down here on the bottom, I've got some tabs, and each tab defines another what's called a worksheet. And here I've got the buses worksheet selected. I can click on this lines worksheet and it's got another set of data, another what's called a worksheet. Then I've got generators, I've got loads, and this is very similar to a database that has different tables. So the worksheets in your spreadsheet are very similar to the tables in a database. So this XLS file is like a database, and the worksheets inside of this XLS file are like tables in a database. They're very similar. They've got names for each of the columns. They've got rows and columns. So really what you're looking at here is very similar to a database. So it's really nice to get a visual picture of what's in your database because this is it. This is a database. The difference between your spreadsheet and the database is that the database has additional functionality that allows you to have, for example, SQL queries. You can query your database. You can do other things with a database that aren't included in the basic spreadsheet and the worksheets inside your spreadsheet. So what we're going to do is show you how to take this spreadsheet and convert it into a database that you can use with like SQL. So as we said before, we need to take this spreadsheet, convert it into a database, and to do that, we're going to have to import it into another application that we're going to use. It's a free application that allows you to take this limited functionality of the spreadsheet and the worksheets inside of it and convert it into the more functional requirements of a database. And the application we're going to use, you can see here, it's called DB Browser. Again, it's a small application, it's free, and it allows you to take this spreadsheet and convert it into database format that you can then save as a .db or a database file that you can access in your application using SQL or whatever. And you can see here in the background, we've got our first Excel worksheet, which is for buses, and we have brought that into this DB Browser database, and you've got the exact same data in our buses table, and you can access the generators table, you can access the lines and so on. However, this DB Browser allows us to add the additional functionality. The other benefit of this DB Browser is, for example, if you want to do SQL queries on your database, it's got a tab here where you can try out your different SQL queries before you actually get into your application and start programming. For example, execute SQL, I can do a select from and where, and I can run it using this arrow, and it will run the SQL query and give me a result. It's a great way to get comfortable with your database before you save it out as a database file. So this shows you the basic procedure we're going to use to create a database from a spreadsheet. And here on the left, we got a spreadsheet from Excel or Libre Office Calc. And what we're going to do is we're going to take each worksheet in that spreadsheet, the bus, the lines, and so on, and save them out as a .csv file, each worksheet as a .csv file. Now, you may already have CSV files that you want to convert to a database. We'll show you how to do that too. But in this case, we're taking those and creating CSV files for each worksheet. And then we're going to bring those CSVs, we're going to import them into our DB browser application. And we're going to tweak the data in the DB browser and then create what's called a .db file that we can access in our SQL application, C#, Python, Java, whatever you're going to use. And we can access using SQL queries. And that's going to be the basic workflow we're going to show you how to do in this video. So the first thing we need to do in our spreadsheet is we need to save all of these worksheets as individual CSV files. Now, unfortunately, in Excel, there's no way to save all of these at once. You may be able to write a program in Excel to do that, but it's pretty easy to do it manually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the buses worksheet and go to File, Save As, and then what we can do is go down here to Save As Type, and we're going to save it as a CSV, comma, delimited. And you can see I've already saved them, and we'll hit Save, and it's going to say the selected file type does not support workbooks that contain multiple sheets. And that's again saying that we have to do each one of these individually, so we say OK, and then this spreadsheet doesn't contain features that are compatible with CSV. That's fine. We'll say yes. And we have now saved that as a CSV file. Then we go to the next one and save that in the same way. So now the next thing we need to do is download DB Browser for SQLite. And the website is, you can see up here, sqlitebrowser.org. Or you can just search for DB Browser, and you should find it. And here is the website. We go to download, and you can see they've got DB Browser installer for 32-bit, no installer, and then installer for 64-bit, and then a zip. And they've got it for Mac OS, they've got it for Linux, and all the 2,500 different Linux versions. And that's basically it. So you install it. I'll assume you know how to install it, and we'll go take a look and see how it works. So now we fire up DB Browser, and this is what you get. And the first thing you have to do is you have to create a new database. So we go up here to New Database, and we'll call it Equipment Database, and save. And here we've got the database, and it's asking us for data table definitions. So we could do it manually, but again, we've got the CSV files we can import to define the tables, so we'll just hit cancel. And the first thing we'll do is go up to File, Import, Table from CSV File. And we can go to where we saved the different tables. You can see buses, generators, lines, loads. So we'll select the buses table, hit Open, and here we've got some choices. We can have the table name, we'll just call it buses. And this is important. We want to have column names in the first line. So since the first line of our CSV file has these column names, we want to include those. So we check that. Field separator, it's comma separated value CSV, so we leave that as comma. Quote character is the double quotes. And then that's it. And you can see immediately it has already brought in that buses table, and it's got the bus numbers, the names, and the other data. So it's done. We've already added the first one, and we can go and File, Import the next one, and select Generators, hit Open, And it's got the generators. We'll do it again. Import table from CSV file. We'll select lines, hit open, leave it as default, hit OK. We've got the lines. And then file, we'll do the last one, import from CSV, and we'll do the loads, leave it as default, and we're all set. So here we have got all of the tables loaded. And what we can do is we can go to this tab and say Browse Data. And here you've got the buses. See, in the table name is buses. We can select lines, loads, and so on. So at this point, we have loaded everything into our database. Now all we have to do is tweak this to make sure that all of the values are correct and it's all configured so that we can save it as a database. So what we can do is go to our first table, which is buses, and we select it, and you can see up here we've got a modify table. So we'll click on that and we get this window that comes up, and it allows you to go through for each field in that table, like the bus number, name, and all of these. We can set the correct type. So bus number, that's correct, it's an integer. Bus name, it's a text. KV, it has it as an integer, and we want it to be a real. So we need to go through each of these. Unfortunately, when you save as a CSV and import it, it doesn't keep the data type. So we have to go through and make sure these are all correct. We also need to set these values of whether it can be null or not. NN is not null. And we do have to have a bus number, so we can't leave it null. So we select that and so on. We need to go down and check these. Not null, primary key. The bus number is a primary key, and so on. We'll talk about this in the future, but you need to go through in each table and make sure that all of these are correct. There's other things like foreign key that we'll talk about later that you can set up. But basically, once you've got all these things set up for all of your tables, you're pretty much done, and you can go and save it as the final database. So what we'll do in the future is we'll go through and we'll fine-tune these and set it up as a database and show how to use it in your application using SQL, or in our case SQLite. We're going to be accessing this database in our C# application. So I encourage you to hang in there and check the next videos. If you're liking these videos, I encourage you to hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, but most of all, please let others know that we're here so we get some views. Really appreciate it. Otherwise, take care. Have a really good day. Thanks.